Welcome to Oregon Indie Film, a video podcast that shines the light on Oregon's independent film industry. I'm your host, Dawn Sellers. I interview Oregon's independent filmmakers who offer insights into the creative process, challenges, and triumphs of making movies in Oregon. This episode features Devin Febbroriello, writer, director, producer, and co-owner of Desert Island Studios in Portland, Oregon. It was a pleasure to sit down with Devin to chat. We cover a lot in this episode, from how Devin first knew she wanted to make films, her path through film school, and a chance move to Portland, to being chosen as one of the International Screenwriters Association's top 25 screenwriters to watch in 2025, and about how Desert Island Studios is much more than a studio space. It's a collective of filmmakers and a champion of Oregon's independent film industry, helping filmmakers create passionate projects and commercial work. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Devin Febbroriello. So I'm here today with Devin Febbroriello to talk about writing and filmmaking and a little bit maybe about Desert Island Studio, which I am so interested in hearing about that too, but mostly about you. If you could tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the podcast. So I am a screenwriter and director, producer, and one of the co-owners of Desert Island Studios. And so I am working in all sorts of different aspects of film and media production, from narrative films to commercials, music videos. And then I also, just on a personal sort of artistic side note, get involved a bit in experimental media art and immersive media art. So I do traditional cinema, and then I really do enjoy dabbling in experimental filmmaking too. So a little bit of it all.
Fun. Yeah. When did you first decide that you wanted to make films? Did you always know that, or was there like a moment where you're like, hey, I want to make a film?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think this question always kind of brings me right back to my childhood, because it was sort of like a gradual journey towards realizing I really wanted to be a filmmaker. And it began with being very, very interested in performance arts. As a kid, I loved singing. I loved dancing. It was kind of all I cared about. I was definitely that sort of stereotypical child that was like making plays in my house and making my whole family watch it and putting on like dance performances. I was very, very extroverted. But then I went through kind of a series of difficult times around 11 years old. And so I entered my teen years, processing a lot of grief and more difficult things that kind of broke me out of childhood. And in that point, I was still incredibly interested in the arts, but I became very introverted. And I got really into visual art and poetry and writing. And I still really wanted to express, but I didn't want to be like out in the spotlight anymore. And so around this time, in my teen years, I got exposed to a lot of filmmakers that were like, kind of in popular culture at the time. So Sofia Coppola, Paul Thomas Anderson, Spike Jonze, David Lynch, even Wes Anderson. I started to see their movies out in the theaters. And when I saw, the specific series of films in the late 90s, early 2000s, it really felt like a lightning bolt moment for me, because for one, the conceptual art making, so sort of this way that people can say so much with a movie on all these different levels and all this different type of emotional depth, that just hit me in this way that I felt really drawn to. So seeing works that were like that, I was like, wow, you can do so much with movies. But then it also was this epiphany where I was like, everything I've ever loved, all the performance art, all the handmade theater sets, and then more introverted, more thoughtful, conceptual art, that all goes into film. Mm-hmm. And so I did have this sort of breakthrough moment, I'd say around 17 years old, where I was like, wow, film is my medium. It's everything I love under one umbrella. And I can express these emotive things. I think from that point on and still in my career, I'm very interested in how storytelling and filmmaking can kind of unearth these nuanced aspects of being human that are hard to articulate any other way. And I find personally a real medicine in that when I watch a film that touches me in these places that I can't quite access any other way. And so that's what I'm interested in too. And I think it's why I kind of genre bend around and I like experimental and I like poetic, but then I like straight ahead storytelling, is that I'm really looking at the end of the day for that like essence of connection that
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, kind of magically unique to film. So yeah, so it was like a bit of a journey. But then when I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker, I went pretty full bore into it. I got a little mini DV camera and I started filming just little bad shorts. And I was really into punk rock music. So I was filming all my friends' bands and whatever. And I was struggling still at that time in my life. So I had very bad high school grades, bad SATs, but I was smart. So I was able to kind of figure out how to this is a long story that I don't have to get into, but I ended up going as a non-matriculating student to a branch of UConn in order to get better grades so I could actually get into a good school
Oh,
because I
okay.
knew I wanted to go to film school. But before I did that at UConn, I really don't think I would have gotten in anywhere. So I did that year and then I applied for Emerson College and SUNY Purchase and a couple others. And I got into Emerson and it was just this complete life-changing moment for me. Because yeah, my life was just sort of headed in this new direction. I was leaving behind everything I had been doing in terms of punk rock music, whatever, and just like starting on this new trajectory. And that was another very just turning point for me, was kind of realizing what I wanted to do and then getting into film school and then just very seriously studying it kind of from then on. I think that's the other thing, is that I feel like with film, you never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is an art form that's so massive. And no matter how many times you make a movie, you learn something new. And I actually really like that part of it. I like that it's like a never ending education. So starting off in film school was like the beginning of that for me, to be like, okay, I want to be very studious about my craft. And yeah, I've been that way ever since.
Wow, I love that. No, I believe that too, that film really can connect people in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really magical, for lack of a better word. It's very moving. Yeah,
yeah, and not only the finished film, but also make the making of the film, how it's
totally.
so collaborative and you do learn something every
Yeah.
time you make a film and everyone that you work with. I love that. So,
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the reasons that the final film is so powerful, is even though, I love auteur filmmakers and I definitely think there's artists with really strong voices. I have a lot of respect for that overall, but I also don't fully believe in it because I know that every great filmmaker has an amazing team behind them of
right.
incredibly talented people in every single department. And so I think one of the reasons the art form just like hits your psyche and your heart and like everything so much when it's really well done is that it is like this creative force of all these people coming together in all these different ways to kind of present this story, and everybody's interpreting it differently and bringing their lived experiences to
Mhm.
it. And I don't know, there's just some alchemy in that creates this powerful outcome that we get to enjoy when we watch people's movies.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Now you didn't grow up in Portland then. You're not from
No, I'm
Portland.
from the East Coast. Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, in the northwest corner, which is a very rural part of the state. It's a lot like upstate New York or Western Massachusetts, if you're familiar.
Mhm.
And then I pretty much was in the little tri-state area my whole adulthood until I moved out here. So I was in Connecticut and then Massachusetts, and then I lived and worked in New York City for a bit before I moved to Portland. And then honestly, when I moved out here, it was my first time ever in the Pacific Northwest. So it was a big change. And
Wow.
I loved it immediately. I honestly couldn't believe how beautiful and
Hmm.
majestic and peaceful. Yeah, I just was so smitten right away with the Pacific Northwest and have been happily here ever since.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
I've been here about 9 years now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so what brought you to Portland, like not being here before, not knowing anything about it? Why did you pick Portland?
Well, it was a completely practical reason. My partner is a musician and he was offered a position at Oregon State University.
Ah,
And we had been living in New York and, we were kind of getting priced out. New York's a very expensive place to live. And we were kind of in a transition of considering leaving the city anyway. And then this opportunity happened and we just took a leap of faith and we did it. And the first year we actually lived in Corvallis,
Hmm.
just in this little tiny, adorable micro mini tiny house, I guess is what you call it, a tiny house
Yeah.
in the forest. And it was just a 9-month contract at first. So we actually thought it might just be like this little blip. And then we moved back to the East Coast. But then he was offered more of a position. And then we moved up to Portland. And yeah, just have been here ever since. And it was a difficult transition for me, I will say, because I've been living and working in New York and I was in the
Right.
industry there. I had a lot of connections. I'd been there a long time. And Portland, what's amazing about it is how strong the community is. But when you first get to the city,
Mm.
it can be a little bit tricky to find people and kind of figure out how it all works because I don't know, it's like a different type of creative ecosystem than like New York or LA is, the way people interact. Once you find everyone, you're like, oh, wow, there's so much here. But that first year, I remember kind of, not really being sure how to plug in or find people. So I was actually flying back and forth to New York a lot for work that first year. And then slowly I got my bearings more and I met more people. And yeah. And then now I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Like, it seems like there's all these little groups of filmmakers in Portland, but really everyone knows everyone or they
Yeah.
meet everyone eventually. And so it is this ecosystem of independent filmmaking, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And so outside of film, what do you like to do? Do you have any
Oh,
hobbies or?
I mean, I'm I'm into so many things. I'm a very curious person that is kind of always getting obsessed with something. So I mean, the obvious things are like I read a ton. I love to hike. I love biking. I love gardening. I'm really into what I call folk herbalism because I've
Mm.
studied herbalism really hard. So I feel like I can almost call myself an herbalist, but I've never gotten certified or anything. But I'm really into medicinal plants and studying and learning more about plants. I yeah, I don't have any hobbies in like the specific way of embroidering or something like that, but I love to do any type of like small crafts. And then I paint. I actually paint all the time. Painting was what I thought I would first go into before film. I was, back to my teen years. I had a moment where I was really building a visual art portfolio and thinking I would go to fine art school. Um, so yeah, so painting's a big part of my life, and I paint very regularly. It's kind of part of my like mental health routine is to always be dabbling
Uh,
on some sort of visual art. Yeah,
do you paint in acrylic or watercolor or?
acrylic.
Yeah, nice, very nice. Um, so we mentioned briefly that you are one of the owners of Desert Island Studios. And so tell us about that. How did that happen? How did that come about?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the Desert Island Studios story is a juicy one, I think, because it all kind of came about in this very wild way, especially the last few years. But I got to go back to the earlier part of the story to kind of get to the most insane part. And that starts with, Joe Bowden. He is the person who first started Desert Island in 2015. And I was, a couple years into, or I was about a year into being in Portland at the time. And I was busy with my own very small production company. And I was directing a lot of little projects. And I had a tiny pool of equipment that I'd bought, like a DSLR camera. And this was so after I moved to New York, or moved from New York, I went through a weird period where I wasn't really freelancing anymore in the way that I had been, and I had started my own production company. So I'd done that right when I left New York. So I had clients still, and then I had a couple clients when I was in Portland. But I was really trying to kind of figure out how to build up this small production company. And basically, through that, I met some people at a party that worked for X-Ray FM, and X-Ray mentioned that they wanted to start doing video content. And so I went out to this meetup group thing that they were doing, and I learned more about kind of the community and what types of video work they wanted to do. And then I think from there, we decided this is all going back in my memory, so it's a little murky. I think we decided to host a session where we invited a bunch of filmmakers that were interested in X-Ray FM, and we told them that we wanted to start this filmmakers collective. And at that point, all we really wanted was to get people who are excited about music and bands and the types of stuff that X-Ray focused on to, maybe film some stuff for fun when they wanted to, and then have some things to go to their YouTube channel. But what happened was actually pretty remarkable. We showed up for this event. I remember we did it in a basement room at the Falcon Arts, and like there was so many people that there was like 80 people or something. We were thinking maybe 10 would show up.
Yeah.
There were so many people. There was such a huge turnout. And we were just, amazed by that. So it was great energy. But then there was this one person who was there who was part of what eventually became Open Signal, so Portland Community Media. He was there, and he, I think, reached out to me pretty soon after and was just like, I think that maybe there's something we could combine on. And then, without going into that whole story, basically at that point, over a very quick time, this whole thing for X-ray television erupted. It was like this merging between X-Ray FM and what became Open Signal, and then kind of what we were trying to do with this filmmaking collective. And then we were suddenly, like helping people train on cameras, and people were doing these regular meetings with us, and meaning like these different workshop sessions. We were doing happy hours. Then eventually we were doing pitch sessions, and people were producing little series. It kind of all went from 0 to 100 really fast. And at the very beginning of that, so when we were at Falcon Arts, Aaron Hall, who was part of X-Ray FM in those early years, a big part of it. And now he's one of the owners and founders of Hey Love, and he was one for Dig-A-Pony. He's very active in Portland. He basically was like, hey, you got to meet my friend Joe. He has space. He's a filmmaker. I think he might get involved in whatever is happening here with X-Ray television. And so long story short, I went down to meet, I think Joe and I met for a drink first, and at the old Beach Street. And we were like, yeah, let's do some stuff together. And at that time, he was like, I have this small studio space and I'm looking for other filmmakers that might want to join. Do you want to come see it? And I was like, yeah, I have a video production company. So it's small, but I'm doing client work. So I went down and met him. And the original studio was at Southeast Ash Street. This is, again, like 2015, I think. And so 10 years ago. So I guess I've been here more than 9 years. I've been here 10 years. We meet there, and it's him and this other person, Ariel Weiser, who's still a member at Desert Island to this day. And then there was another member whose name I forget, but she wasn't there. And they were in probably like a 200 square foot like studio space, and there was a couple desks. And Joe explained the whole like vision of, it wasn't Desert Island then, it was just a co-working space for filmmakers. And I joined. I was like the third or fourth member that ever joined. And at that point, I was a member of Joe's space, and then he started working on X-Ray television. Actually, so did Melina Kumas, which I'm assuming you know Melina. Melina was part of it. Aaron Hall, we had a couple interns. So then we were doing X-Ray television. And then at that point, we were working on all these other projects together. So we were doing client projects, and we were sharing gear. So it's kind of like the beginning of what will grow to be a much bigger thing where we are now. But basically in that early phase, we were just doing X-Ray television, doing client work, and then making music videos and making our films and just trying to help each other out. Because as you know, it's so hard to do this. I don't come from a super wealthy background. It's like you're trying to figure out how to make stuff, cobble it together with what you can. And so we were just doing that from the start. And Joe and I always joke how there's some early projects where we're like, he had like a dolly that was made out of like PVC pipe. And, we're doing everything like really like on skateboards and very just like rock and roll. But then around 2016, there was an opportunity to expand that space. And I think around then is when Joe met Ashley, who's his partner. And she's a great producer, great actor. And when she kind of came into the fold was around the same time that Joe expanded. And so Desert Island grew in terms of size and members in 2016. And around then too, I think 2016, 2017 is when the X-Ray TV project kind of naturally came to an end, which is a whole other long story, but that sort of shifted. And I think what's sort of interesting to note is that within X-Ray television, we were curating all these original series. We were curating, and then we were curating together blocks of finished films and music videos. And that was Joe's like main sort of brainchild within X-Ray television. and he called it Desert Island Television. So, which is
Mm.
just funny to me because 10
Yeah.
years ago, Desert Island was actually, the concept was sort of born within X-Ray TV, but his part was Desert Island Television. And on the website we eventually had, there was a whole section for Desert Island Television. Anyway, that all kind of, started to shift. I actually went on staff at Open Signal and I was working there for a bit, but I was still part of the old space. And then in 2018, the shift happened again, where, well, it's actually strangely very similar to what happened in 2023, happened in 2018. The space we were in is actually where Khan is now, that really fancy restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
That's called, right? So that's the building that we were in, and it was getting, changed over ownership. We
Right.
had to get out. And so Joe and Ashley, they were really like, in cahoots now as like partners in life and business. And so they found the space that the whole thing moved into down on Interstate. And so it's like kind of these like incremental expansions. So the first one was from a tiny room with 4 people to like 15 people. Then we moved down to Interstate. I think it expanded. I don't know. Joe knows better. Joe and Ashley know better than I do. I think it expanded to around 20 members or maybe 17 or something at Interstate. And then the Interstate space was bigger, more square footage. So, of course, each step we're gaining more people into this filmmaker collective. And then we're also gaining more gear because we're kind of sharing gear. We're also making more projects. We're doing more client work. We're making more movies. We're making more music videos. We're kind of all doing our thing as this little creative hub. And everybody does different stuff. I mean, that's one thing about Desert Island that's really cool is there's people involved that are gaffers. There's people that are involved that are animators or post doing color work. There's people who are directors and writers and producers. So it's always been like that. And then there's people who kind of have like day jobs doing video content for companies. So there's a lot. It's kind of like everything that happens within media production is represented on some level. And from the start, it's always been a very diverse group, like a lot of women, people of color, LGBTQ plus people. So like that's always been part of it. And Joe's always been really intentional about the spirit of it being, like helping people do their thing and to make their art and to make their projects and to feel like it's possible to be a filmmaker because there's so many reasons to feel like it's almost impossible.
Right.
So that was there from the earliest iteration. And then to kind of wrap this extremely long story up, we were in that space on Interstate, growing, doing good. The pandemic obviously hit. Then that building had incredible issues, really extreme landlord negligence. And from there, we had to make an emergent. There was all this stuff happening where like pipes were bursting and leaking water. I mean, it was, that's a very long story. Maybe I'll have Joe on the podcast. He can tell you the whole story of, I mean, it was very stressful. And Joe and Ashley have always like really led the facility and membership stuff, which, okay. So yeah, around this time, I came into Desert Island more as a co-owner at the end of our old space because Joe asked me if I would come and sort of launch an in-house production company because I'd been running my own small production company. I'd been doing the one at Open Signal. So he asked me to do that. And so around 2021, before we had all the building chaos, we launched this production company and we were just kind of getting our footing and starting to get some clients and things were starting to work. And then the madness with the building unfolded. And we really had to make like an extreme choice very quickly to get out of there. Cause the fire marshals were coming. It was tough, but of course it's the pandemic. So work was scarce. Income was low. So making this huge leap into a new space felt really difficult. But then a very serendipitous thing happened where the building that we're currently in, Elena Rosenthal, who is a big part of our community, great producer. She is old family friends with the owners of the studio, and she was in the studio that we're currently in. She was in there running her production company. She has a great little production company. She was in there doing all this stuff, but the owners were like, they were renting the main studio as a shoe warehouse I shouldn't call it a shoe warehouse. A shoe company was storing their merchandise in the main studio. And then Elena was using the front part. And basically, I don't know. You should also interview Elena because I don't know. I can't remember exactly what happened. I know Jen Tate was involved. Basically, there was this thing that happened where the owners of that space made it clear to, I believe, Elena and Jen Tate that, if you could find the right people, the right situation, like we would love to like, turn this back into a studio like that, they shut it down in, I think, 2016, and it had been a couple of different things, a rehab facility, and then they were restoring these shoes. And I think maybe because Elena was in there doing stuff, they were like, if it could happen, like we'd be interested. And so those were the serendipities, kind of insane. So we're over here, our building's breaking down. We're like, everything's insane. What are we going to do? We got to get out of here.
Stay right there. We'll be back to hear more in just a moment.
Calling all filmmakers, performers, and creatives. The Soundstage is your home for high-quality recording in the Portland area. Whether you're working on an audio or video podcast, voiceover project, audiobook, casting your next film, or need help with that self-tape audition, we offer a professional, welcoming studio space. Come record with confidence and mention the Oregon Indie Film Podcast to get $5 off your next session. Learn more about The Soundstage, the Northwest's premier voiceover and recording studio, at thesoundstagenw.com.
Hey there. If you're enjoying this episode of Oregon Indie Film, don't go anywhere. We've got more great conversation coming up. And if you believe in uplifting local voices and the power of independent storytelling, we'd love your support. Hit that follow button, share the show with a friend, or leave us a quick 5-star review. It makes a big difference. Want to get more involved? Reach out at OregonIndieFilm@gmail.com. Now, back to the episode.
And then we hear about this situation, and, we'd been looking at other spaces. And basically we went and had a meeting with them, and they, we told them like what would work for us and what our goals are and whatever. And we all left the meeting, like, honestly thinking like, this can't possibly happen. I mean, we saw the space. We're just like, this is insane. This is a beautiful space.
Huge.
So huge. And it'd be like this massive level up. And then, through a series of discussions, the owners basically were very supportive and, welcomed us to set up a lease agreement with them and to make this move. So that was we started talking to them at the end of 2022, and at the beginning of 2023, we had to kind of pack everything, raise as much. We did a crowdfund. I mean, it was just like absolute mayhem, because we're like, we got to do all this stuff to make this work.
Right.
We were really, really fortunate to get some grant funding, plus the crowdfund. And that got us, we moved in May. Well, we moved in a little bit before, but really started May 1st. And then that was like the launch of this whole new era. And then of course we had a tremendous amount of work to do, it had been a studio for many, many years, but it hadn't been one in a bit. And then we wanted to change out some of the structure. So Joe specifically, who has an incredible background as a he doesn't have a background necessarily as a carpenter, but he has incredible carpentry skills.
Yeah, he's multi-talented, I think. Joe is.
Very multi-talented.
Yeah.
He basically did an insane amount of work. And then, we grew the membership. We started doing more programmatic activities. We grew the production company. Not going to lie, it was a very intense 2-year stretch where we were just, we'd be texting each other at 2 a.m, being like, gotta do this, gotta do. It was wild. But it was such a rare, unique and incredibly fortunate opportunity. And I think the important thing to say is that all of us, so Joe, Ashley, me, and then D. Giuliano Scott are the 4 co-owners. And, we're all artists, we're all filmmakers. We all really believe in the power of storytelling, but we also are all very community focused. Mm-hmm. So I think for all of us, that extreme sacrifice in terms of energy and time, and it's not some wildly financially successful endeavor. We're sustaining, we're making it happen. The reason we want to do it is for the community, because Desert Island as a whole from the very beginning has always been about making stuff possible. And so, we're always hosting events and we do workshops for education. And it really is all coming from love and determination to help change the way that this industry operates. Even the production company part that I kind of led the way on, it's we're very intentional about the way we manage our sets and the way we communicate with people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we just have been really trying to build something that we want to see in the world. And it's been amazing. I mean, it's a really exciting and overwhelming experience, and we've I think done a great job getting from where we were to where we are now, and then hopefully the goal is for us to be and we are working on it, developing features and more original works that we're doing in tandem with commercial work and client work and renting the studio. So we have a lot of different irons in the fire, but yeah, the central focus of it is to support filmmakers, make as much excellent work as we can, and make sure that we're helping people speak their voice, live their dreams, and do the best that we can with the limited. I mean, again, we're not a funding. People will often reach out to us kind of looking for us to fund their projects. We're not a funding entity yet. Hopefully in the future, as we grow, that might be something we'll be able to do. But yeah, so it's the absolute definition of a passionate project run by a bunch of artists.
Well, not only a passionate project, but also just a really good business model. I mean, I think getting the community behind you because you're community focused, and then kind of bringing in not only, the commercial piece, which you have to have because you have to make money to afford rent and afford the lights and all of that, but also, being able to help filmmakers and creatives follow their passion and bring their stories to life. It's really very magical. Like what you guys have created. It's very magical.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It feels like no matter what happens, like we're all really proud of like what we've managed to do so far. And it comes from our lived experiences.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality is like, we know as filmmakers, yes, you have to do commercial and client work. And yes, you have to do all these things. So it's like, we're kind of like doing that all plus developing stuff and then helping other people do that in whatever way they're doing it. And just, I think like in a lot of ways, it's funny because all the way back to like X-ray television, 10 years ago, it's a long time ago now, but to me, that was kind of the turning point towards where I think we really are now, where it's like, if you're a filmmaker in 2025, you are more or less, unless you're super in traditional Hollywood, a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah.
And you're working on stuff that may screen in a movie theater, but you're also working on stuff that's going to screen on TikTok and whatever. And so I think Desert Island is also the spirit of what it means to be a contemporary filmmaker. Is it's like you're doing like the whole space, the way it operates, the gear we have, everything about it is also very much like connected to a contemporary filmmaker's reality that like you do have to, and not that you have to, a lot of people want to. I mean, there's many filmmakers we meet that, they've been making all their stuff with their iPhone and like, that's cool. And they want to learn how to use a cinema camera now. So it's like, I think that's the reality we're living in. And Desert Island Studios very much understands and embraces that.
Yeah. No, I think you said it. You guys really are the spirit of indie film in Oregon. I mean, you really encompass all of the spirit of the filmmakers. So
Thank you.
yeah.
That's sweet. I mean, we do feel that. We feel like we really believe in independent filmmaking and the grit that it takes, it takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of like, you really got to want to do it. And yeah, you get your community and you have an opportunity to like, not just make a great project, but to make great friends and, share in this experience with people that are as passionate as you are. And I think that's really important piece.
And helping one another make your films. It's not just about me making my film, but it's about, me helping you make your film and then me getting my film made too. And it's, totally. It's the true spirit of that. But yeah, wow, that's amazing.
So, that's the whole story. You should definitely have Joe and Ashley on too, because their perspective. So, my perspective is as a member first, then hosting the production company, and then those 3 years of like this big transition. They've obviously been in it like on a different level with all the membership and facility stuff from 2015 till then. So they have, I'm sure, their own stories too, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. Yeah, I actually met Joe. I went down to tour the studio and kind of look at the offices that are, you guys have a couple of offices available.
Although I think just found people for them. But
Yay,
that's
good.
nice to know that you're thinking about membership, though. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm waiting for a desk to open up, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. The offices are more of a financial commitment for sure. But yeah,
Yeah,
there should be desks opening in the future, no doubt.
yeah. Yeah. And so, wow. I mean, that's so much. And then you also have your own projects that you're working on.
Yeah.
So I think, the first time that you came on my radar, before I even knew that you were involved at Desert Island, is that you were named by the International Screenwriters Association as one of the top 25 screenwriters to watch in 2025. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a
Um,
really big honor.
yeah. And so tell me about your projects. I know you have a short called Color Theories.
Hmm.
Now, is that's in festivals right now? Is that right?
Yeah, so Color Theories is out. It's in the festival circuit. And actually, I just found out in the last couple of weeks that it's going to be screening at Tacoma Film Festival in October. I don't have the final date for that yet. But then it's also going to be screening in Los Angeles at New Filmmakers Los Angeles, which I'm really excited about, both festivals. So we have a couple more screenings coming up and then only a couple more to hear from. And then we'll be wrapping out
Yeah.
the festival run. But yeah, Color Theories has been a really tremendous project on so many levels. I'm so proud of the movie. It's been really exciting to share it with so many people. And yeah, the team that worked on that film was just fantastic. And yeah, I just have a lot of gratitude for it. Um, and yeah, it's coming close to its wrap out. It's a very personal film, so my next project is not nearly as personal, and I do feel excited about that because the personal storytelling, I have enjoyed doing it, but it's also quite intense to put
Mhm.
yourself out there in that way. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to kind of working on something a little bit lighter to some degree, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, is that the impeccable art of never-ending wellness? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
not quite so personal. I love the concept of this.
Thank
And
you.
you did just receive a grant
I did.
through
Yeah.
the Oregon Impact Grant to make
Yeah.
this. So yeah, tell
I'm
us about
super
that.
excited about and grateful for that grant too. Yeah, so my new short, it's actually is personal still to some degree, but not quite as intense. I think everything I do tends to have, I'm a what do they
Yeah.
call it? Like a vulnerability hangover type of gal. I'm really into being like, I'm going to say all these things, and then later I'm like, oh my God, I said so
What did I
much.
say? Yeah.
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 But I do it because I really feel like what I'm saying about filmmakers that make great conceptual works is like artists that really like, put themselves out there. Like their work is so important to me. It's
Mhm.
like the thing that just makes me feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this or that. So I try to live that to myself. But The Impeccable Art of Never-Ending Wellness is a bit more it's a dark comedy thriller, and it's a short. It's basically about, well, like the more like straight up narrative. It's about a young woman who is obsessed with wellness and self-optimization content, and she her back starts having all this problems and she doesn't know why, and then it ends up there's this big lump in her mattress and she's like, gosh, like what the heck. And then she has to take some Percocets because of all the back pain, and then basically in kind of a funny twist, the lump ends up that it's this tiny door, and the door opens up to sort of like a Black Mirror style like wellness optimization portal, that while she's interacting with it at first, it seems very benign and actually thrilling kind of. And she's like, I don't know, maybe I got to go in here. And then, of course, without spoiling, stuff happens and it's not exactly what she thinks or hopes. And so it is personal in the sense that I'm somebody that lives with chronic health stuff. And so I've found that in my own life path with, wellness, is that I'm very involved. I mean, I'm into herbalism. I take lots of
Mhm.
supplements. I'm reading and watching health books and podcasts and everything, and it's all very helpful. And it's been kind of wild to see that industry boom in our culture.
Yeah.
But on the shadow side of that, I also think that our culture can be very unrealistic at times about like these ideas of perfection,
Yes.
like always looking good, always feeling good, like living forever, all of these things. And I think that actually causes a lot of harm.
Hmm.
I think the fact that we don't hold ourselves and one another in the truth of our lives and the truth of our humanity, and the way that social media will kind of like, or AI, all this will kind of feed into these fantasies, I think causes a lot of harm. So the film is exploring that balance, between like wellness and taking care of yourself, and then also like acceptance for the human condition, and what we, how do we like love what it means to be human fully, and not try to run from the things that maybe aren't as comfortable. And that's something that came to me as with living with chronic health stuff. You can get sort of wrapped up sometimes in this idea that like, maybe if I just do this one thing,
right, it's going to fix
then I'll be
me.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to a point with my own condition where I was like, you know what, I just have to actually like be like, this is who I am, and this is what I live with, and it's part of who I am, and that's okay. And like, I can still do lots of things to feel as good as I can feel, but I'm gonna have symptom flare-ups, and that's what it is. And yeah, so the movie kind of comes from that. But the whole thing is that I really want, so like, I love, love, love films that are making social commentary, or like digging into deep things about our psyches or humanity, but do it in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
So this film is, and a lot of my features are kind of in that pocket. So Color Theories, as great as it was, stylistically, I don't really intend to make a lot of like super thoughtful, intense dramas. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll make more dramas, but
don't hold
not
yourself
like
to that. Yeah.
yeah, that's not like my main goal. What I would really hope is to be the features that I have in development, to be able to make those. And those are kind of more stylistically, voice wise, like The Impeccable Art of Never Ending Wellness, where it's something that you could talk about what the movie's about, and there's stuff in there to kind of contemplate. But at the end of the day, you're going to watch a movie that was like fun and entertaining and a little thrilling to watch. And like, that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah, but leaving the audience with the thought, or like talking about it, or thinking about it, or maybe trying to change their mind about something.
Yeah. Well, and to a degree too, like so I have a lot of respect for filmmakers that make work that's like a specific message. And like, I know people that are like that. And like, I respect that. I think it's actually a really powerful thing with film, and it's something also very powerful about the medium. Personally, I think because of my lived experience, and like feeling like a flawed person, and coming from like a pretty flawed family, and kind of like being in a lot of situations where I see a lot of nuance, I personally am drawn to stories and characters that kind of leave you being like, was that a good person or a bad person? Like,
right.
I personally am not somebody who I think will make work that's like, there could be a message in it, because of course your own perspective is going to be there to some degree, but I kind of try my best to explore things conceptually without making like a super firm stance that I'm trying to tell everyone how to think about something. But that's just me. I actually, again, respect people who do that for sure.
Yeah. So where is this film in production now? Have you started filming?
No, so we still need to fundraise. I mean, we are still fundraising right now. So I have two producers on board, Elena Rosenthal and Maria Moreno. Super excited to be working with them both. And we are, meeting right now we're developing a couple of fundraising events that are going to happen at Desert Island Studios over the next few months. Our goal is to fundraise through the end of the year and then get into production in early 2026. And we're probably going to launch a Seed and Spark, but we're really excited about the events. Definitely look forward to sharing more about it. They're going to be these sort of like, they're all going to be different, but connected thematically. They're going to be these like sort of wellness. They're going to be connected to the film. So there'll be things that are like kind of about wellness, but then also some critique of like tech addiction or whatever. Like each one has a different sort of theme for the people who come to attend events. Will have a great experience being in a unique art environment, or like we're going to have some talks that people do, probably a group art show. So it'll be like a great experience, but then you're helping support the film by paying, some portion of a ticket price or whatever it ends up being. So we're going to do that. And then also launch a Seed and Spark. And then of course, I'm applying for more grants and everything. So I do feel confident that we're going to get to where we need to be and begin production in early 2026. But as I'm sure you know, the fundraising phase it has a life of its own, and we'll see how it goes and where we end up when.
Yeah, it does. And it sounds like you're being really creative with that fundraising, which I love because I think we have to be. Um,
Yeah,
you can't just throw up a seed and spark or a GoFundMe and expect that, people are going to give you money. I mean, it's just we're all kind of trading the same money at that point. I give you money, you give me
totally.
money. Yeah. So I think being creative and finding those other ways of fundraising is going to be super important.
Yeah, thank you. I do feel pretty strongly about that because I don't know, there's a lot of very worthy causes right now
There
for people to
are,
be
yeah,
giving their money.
yeah,
And even I mean, I'm sure we've all felt this the past couple of years doing any type of fundraising. It's almost like you're like, am I really going to ask for money for this? Well,
right.
it's a
I
crazy time.
know.
And it always, it's not, yeah, it's a crazy time, and fundraising is always hard. But yeah, I do feel like creating something that gives back at the same, the film
Right.
itself hopefully gives back, right? And that there
Mhm.
are certainly people that will just want to support the film for the sake of it being made.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like this idea of creating an experience that is generative for people. And so it ends up being like, yeah, something that they feel like they got something for supporting in a way that's cool for their life, and hopefully get them even more excited to see the movie.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Get some buzz going about the movie before it's even made, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, funding is always a challenge. We all know that, those of us that make films. What else do you find challenging about making films specifically in Oregon?
Um, Geez, I mean, funding is the number
Funding,
one
it
thing.
is,
It
yeah.
really is. I think I don't know. Like honestly, making films in Oregon to me feels so much like as far as like the infrastructure, the talent, the landscapes, the equipment, like compared to making something in New York City where I was originally working, it's so much easier and there's so much more potential for what you can even conceptualize because you can actually do it. So it's hard for me to not just go into praising what's so great
Right.
about working, what makes it
Yeah.
easier. Fundraising is definitely the hardest because, of course, as we know, we don't have, it's not LA. You
Right.
can't go like pitching around to studios and get funds. And then shorts are their own beast. I mean, feature development is a different story in terms of how to go after funding. But I just think making shorts, it's always difficult. And honestly, the main reason I'm making another short is because it just really, I don't know when. I haven't made my feature debut yet. It's really something I am very much hoping to do soon. But I also have no idea when it's realistically going to happen.
Right.
And I don't want to be not creating. So
Right.
I decided to do another short because the timeline just feels like who knows when a feature will happen. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question fully, but
Yeah, I mean, I think shorts, they're fun to make. You can make them relatively easy if you can raise the money to do it.
mhm,
Um, it's, it's so easy to get cast and crew in Oregon. We have a
totally.
plethora of talent here. And right, you want to be creating. I mean, even though the feature is the ultimate
Yeah.
creation that you want to create as a writer and director, but yeah, I mean, you've got to keep making shorts. I know. I keep coming up with all these ideas of these shorts I want to film. And it's like, no, I want to stay
Totally.
focused on a feature, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a tricky one because yeah, it's like you want to do the bigger projects, but you like I don't know, for me in my life, I always have to come back to like what's actually possible, what's actually real. And I can still be moving towards these big goals, but what can I do this year versus like what's not going to happen? And yeah, I think, but yeah, as far as what's hard in Oregon, yeah, I honestly can't say anything other than fundraising.
mhm.
I think fundraising is the hardest thing. I think everything else is quite lovely, and I think unlike anywhere else, like I really do. I like that you want to make it the indie filmmaking capital of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Let's
Yay,
do
let's do
it.
it. We're going to do
Yeah.
it. Um, yeah, so back to the ISA top 25. So you're part of their development slate too. Now, are your features part of that? Is that what you're developing as part of that?
Yeah, so the way that the top 25 and the development slate works is that you're on basically a special like group with everybody else who's in it. And you have these like meetings with people from the ISA, and these check-ins regularly with them. And then there's some overlap where we get to talk to the other top 25 writers. Like we do a biweekly meeting as a group. We actually just started that. And then we get these OWA, these like offers to pitch our scripts coming from studios to the ISA.
Mm-hmm.
So the ISA doesn't take a script that you have. I mean, they might. I'll get to that in a second. But like they mostly are like giving you these other types of opportunities that are not posted on the main site to submit your scripts directly for to be read. They do also, this hasn't happened for me yet, because I'm basically working on building my portfolio now, but they'll also like help set up general meetings when you have a script that they feel like is like ready to take out. I have a feature and a TV series that I feel like are both really strong scripts, but my other scripts I don't feel like are fully there yet, and they're not exactly the style that I want to be working in. So I'm actually, part of my year of being top 25 has also been just really working hard on some new material. And then I don't know what happens. I think with the development slate, I might continue to be on it for another year. I'm not sure. Like when they had me come on, it sounded like it could extend. So I might still be on development slate, but obviously I won't be top 25 anymore. But yeah, it's a cool opportunity. But it's not like I'm getting meetings, you know. Right. It's cool and it's great, and I'm super grateful. But it's more like gaining access to opportunities to submit work in a more personalized way. And it's just nice to see. It's been nice to see like what studios are looking for. It's surprising in a lot of ways. There's been a lot more like kind of like G-rated and like family friendly stuff than I guess I would have expected, but also that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a wider audience range maybe for those types of films. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of thriller and horror, which I'm sure you can imagine because that makes good money. So yeah, but it's been awesome. I'm really grateful. And as I'm sure you know, it's like everything's another sort of feather in your cap. And then, you know, it helps you when you apply for a fellowship or whatever else you're doing. So yeah.
Yeah. So of all the things that you do, so you're a writer, director, producer, studio owner, all of those things. Is there one thing that you really enjoy the most? Like if you could just spend your time doing one of those things, would you?
I mean, definitely writing and directing. Yeah. And as a combo, like I really love to direct my own writing.
Yes.
And you know, I am doing it, and I just hope to be able to do it more and grow in that capacity. That would be the dream. But I'm happy. I love everything I do too. So it's not like if I can't, you know, expand on that, I would be bummed, because I also really enjoy everything at Desert Island and producing. But yeah, I love to write screenplays and then direct projects. I also do just love writing. I mean, that's another thing for me with ISA. And I did an MFA program in screenwriting because of my health stuff. I mean, I'm pretty strong. I'm in good health. It's not like I'm not disabled from my chronic illness, thankfully. But I don't know how I'm going to age with it, you know? So has been a part of me that's like, can I really endure an 18-hour set day when I'm in my late 50s? Like, I don't know, you know? So part of my, and because I love screenwriting so much too, I've been like, you know, I want to write and direct. I mean, that's still the dream. I'm going to keep going in that direction, but I also plan to write scripts that I don't direct and hopefully sell them and, you know, or get them developed by other people. So yeah, writing is just as much up there for me, and kind of what I see as potentially more my future, depending on how my body continues to age. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. The production life is hard on the body. That's for sure.
It is. Yeah. I'm in my 50s, and I don't like to work more than 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
On set. I'm a fan of the 8-hour set days. So
I mean, that's great. That's a great day. It should be 8 hours. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we want to integrate more at Desert Island. I mean, you know, we still oftentimes have to do 10 or 12-hour days, but the more that we can create good work environments that are healthy for minds and bodies, the better. So,
Yeah, yeah. And once in a while it's okay to do those days, but yeah, I mean, I hope that the industry can get to a more realistic treatment of our bodies and minds.
Yeah, it really can be so insane. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, a lot of my chronic health problems developed in my 20s, and sometimes I'm like, did my career do this? I mean, I
Hmm.
don't think so. I'm joking, but it
Yeah.
is hard on your body for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always like to ask this question. If there, what is your big, beautiful dream? Like, if there was no limit on money or time or anything, what is your big, beautiful dream that you'd like to do?
Um, I think it's pretty close to what I'm doing. I mean, I think on a personal level, developing, writing and directing movies and making, stories and films and working with great actors and talent and DPs and everything, that I feel incredible about, like doing that and then helping other people do that and kind of being a small studio, independent studio that's making films in a variety of ways. Um, and then, for me personally, I've never reached a point of like financial like health or wealth by any means. I've always been like, on the grind. But if I actually had like true wealth, for me, a big dream would just be able to give back into
Hmm.
our society and our culture on levels that it absolutely infuriates me that other people with that kind of wealth aren't doing.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, success of a sort that resulted in lots of movies and lots of money. I mean, sure, invest more in money, but on a personal or invest the money more in movies, but on a personal level, I would love to just be able to like give to more causes that matter to me.
Yeah.
And then I will say with Desert Island and my own sort of mindset on it too, of course, is that we really believe in diversifying storytelling, and
Hmm.
that having more stories from more diverse voices and backgrounds is just going to enrich our whole culture.
Hmm.
Obviously, we're living through like an absolutely insane time right
Hmm.
now, this like complete pushback on it. But I don't believe in my heart of hearts that humanity is supposed to be anything other than this like beautiful, diverse expression of life. And that's what reality is. And I think that other side's not going to ultimately win. And I do
Yeah.
believe that we just have to keep pushing for what we believe in because it's real. Everybody deserves to live their life the way that they want to
Yes.
and speak their truth however they want to. Obviously, assuming it's not causing extreme harm on somebody else. But
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, and I think, storytelling is giving back because it helps us understand one another and realize that, we are mostly the same. We're more the
yeah,
same than we are different. Um,
100%.
yeah, and by telling our stories, the diverse stories that everyone has, I think is
Yeah,
so important. So yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's what I that is ultimately what I feel about it. Is it's like kind of what I was saying when I was younger of just like it's like that connection point, that nuance sort of, it's like there's a space between us all, but like
right,
the space between us all is where we're all the same.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't know. And it's wild to live in a culture where there's a large part of the population that doesn't see it that way.
I
Uh,
know.
But that's also why I think it's even more important
Hmm.
for people that recognize, yeah, just like how we're all connected, how we're all interconnected,
Yeah.
uh, to yeah keep believing in the goodness of what storytelling and connection can do for our culture.
Yeah, and I think just keep making beautiful art during this time. It's what we can all do. We can just keep making art and trying to
Yeah,
reach people that way. Do you have any advice? I mean, you've given lots of nuggets of advice over this conversation, but maybe a piece of advice that you got when you were first starting out in filmmaking that's kind of stuck with you that you could share?
yeah, this is funny because at the time this felt like really mean advice when this person said this to me, but I've had many times where I remember this person and I'm like, God, he was right. And so hopefully I can deliver it less mean. He was a grouchy old man when he told me it. But when I first went to tour Emerson College, we met this guy. I can't remember what his job title was, but he was like the head of some department at the school. He was probably in his like 60s or 70s. Like he was an older man. And, I was on this tour with our, parents and other students and parents. And he like takes us in this room. And instead of, the rest of the tour had been kind of lighthearted and like, here's the equipment room, whatever. This guy takes us into his room and he basically was like, I want you to understand that if your child goes into this profession, they will be broke for their entire life. They will struggle. You will be helping them financially. Like he just like went down this like really hardcore, like he even was like, none of you are special. None of you, like he like shredded all of us. But then, and this is where, so that was the mean part. And I was just like, oh my God, you're 18, full of dreams.
Yeah.
But then he was like, but here's the thing you need to know is that if you really love this and if you really want to do this, you have to keep going because it's the people that continue and don't quit when they're broke and stressed and whatever that actually end up having the career and end up, doing it. And it's like you're going to experience failure, you're going to experience rejection, you're going to experience times where you're like, I'm completely broke. What am I doing? This is insane. But if you really love it and you keep going, it will work out. And I think that's 100% true. I mean, I still have my moments of doubt and fear, like no doubt, but I definitely like me even 10 years ago wouldn't believe where I am now, and like I definitely have had an iterative growth and it is 100% because I've stuck with it. I've believed I can keep going and I've continued on. And I think there's just I think all of life is full of unknowns. I think filmmaking especially is just this very like twisty, turny path with lots of unknowns. But what's so beautiful about it is you meet all these people, you have all these experiences, you talk to one person one day and then next thing you know, 5 years later, that person helped fund your next film, or they end up being your favorite collaborator of your lifetime. Like there's so much strange magic, again, that word, kind of in the process. And if you stick with it and you really believe in it and you're passionate about it, it will work out. But that devotion and that deep rootedness to stay on the path, I think is really important. And I also hold no gripes with anyone who's ever quit because they're just like, this isn't for me. This is a crazy life. Like I also think that's completely valid and there's no reason people should suffer. But for me personally, the struggle to passion ratio has always been more passion than struggle. And so, yeah, when he said that day, it kind of scared the crap out of me. But also now when I look back, I'm like, he was right. It's true because I could have quit at 27 or whatever, and I definitely wouldn't be here right now. And I feel like I've had a lot of yes, there's things I'd still love to accomplish. And, I have dreams and goals that are way beyond where I am right now. But I've definitely accomplished a lot of goals already that I never thought I could have accomplished, in my 20s. So I'm living proof that if you keep at it, things do get better. And then I do think the barriers of entry in the industry are real. I mean, a lot of that's very real, identity-based, but also very much, which I know connects to identity, socioeconomic based. I mean, I learned that pretty hardcore at Emerson because I was there with no, barely scraping by, working at a coffee shop and eating canned beans, the kind of classic thing. And, I had peers that were making their student films with $100,000 budgets. And they won awards and kind of their careers took off at 20. And I was like, whoa, what? This is how it works. It was pretty shocking to me right from the start, how much if you're funded in life in some way, it won't make you the next great auteur, but it will definitely let you kind of move up the chutes and ladders of it all faster. So that's another piece of Desert Island is it's trying very much so to level the playing field in terms of identity, but also in terms of socioeconomic disparity and how, if you can access cameras and you can make your project get a little bit of a leg up that you wouldn't, that somebody else could just afford to buy a red camera system and make their, because that's real. There's a lot of people in New York and LA specifically, when you see folks, I think this is important for people to know too. When you see certain people and it's just gosh, they're just making movie after movie and they're traveling all over the world and they're doing whatever. I could be wrong, but there's a very good chance they have a certain level of economic stability that's allowing them to move their career forward very differently. And if you're not one of those people, I'm not one of those people, you're going to be on a slower, longer road, probably. Maybe not. Miracles do happen, but you do have to stick in the game and keep going. And it takes grit and determination and passion. And I think that's the advice that I would give.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. I think it's very true. Um, so is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we didn't cover today?
I don't know. I feel like this has been a great conversation. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the questions that you've asked and hearing your reflections. It's really nice to learn more about you too. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk a little bit about my experimental filmmaking, but we don't need to go into that
Yeah,
necessarily.
maybe we'll do another episode of that in the future. Yeah, once you when one of your features is made or something, we can talk about that and
Yeah,
then
we can
go
come into my
into.
film laboratory, is what I like to
Yeah,
call it. We can do the meeting from the lab.
I love that. And so you have a website. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put the Desert Island link in there. And oh, you're fundraising for your short. If
Yeah.
people want to help support that, is there a place they can go to do that?
So we don't have that all up yet. I don't know how soon you'll share this. I don't have it all up yet, but depending on when you put it out, I can follow up with you with the information for that.
It'll probably be in the next day or so. So maybe
Okay.
if people just follow you,
Yeah, just
you're
follow
on.
my.
Yeah.
So I have a main Instagram, and then we do have one for the movie now. And probably what I'll do across the marketing is share like a collab post between the two.
Yeah.
So you could follow either me or the Impeccable
Yeah.
Art and Never Ending Wellness, and yeah, or
And then,
probably Desert Island. Although no, probably not Desert Island. Follow Desert Island for sure.
yeah, for
I don't
sure.
think we'll post everything about what's happening with the movie all the
Yeah.
time. There, that channel has a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah. But to follow your Instagram and then kind of keep up with the fundraising when that
Yeah.
is posted and ready
Yes.
for donations. Although I'm sure
Yes.
if somebody DM'd you, they could give you money now and you wouldn't turn it down.
I would be, if somebody wants to support this movie, I would be
Yeah.
so thrilled and so grateful. So yes, if you hear
Yeah.
about it and you're like, gosh, I want to help that film and filmmaker out, please do find me.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful having you on today, and I'm excited to watch your career progress
Thank
and
you
all
so
of the things that you're doing for the community and filmmakers. And it really is magical. And yeah, it's wonderful. I'm so glad
much.
we got to meet today.
Same, likewise. It's been so great to meet you and to talk with you. And I want to know more about all your events that you're hosting too, because I would love to come out and also let our members at Desert Island know about it. Because yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if folks know about it, but we need to integrate communities.
Yeah, we're all about that. I'm all about that. I love to connect people and just, get people together and help people be successful in whatever they want to do, whether it's, filmmaking or anything. I really love to see people be successful. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to follow Devin on Instagram or her website. You'll find those links are in the show notes, along with links to Desert Island Studios and the International Screenwriters Association. Be sure to watch for her next film, currently in development, The Impeccable Art of Never-Ending Wellness, and help support the fundraising goal for this film. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review and share it on your social media. It helps us connect with more indie film lovers. Want to support the podcast by becoming a guest or a sponsor? Reach out at OregonIndieFilm@gmail.com.